Yeah, there it goes. That's the trick, I guess. Hey, look, guys, what's up? We got a good episode for you guys. Going to try to get Brady back on here in a second. But as you already know, it's me, Chris Griffin. Then you got Chris Mason right there. Sooners 360 Horns Down podcast. When we come together on Thursdays, that's Sooner Intel for you. So we got some news, some updates, and just some first impressions, different things like that about Team 132. So we're really excited for that today. Chris Mason, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
All right, all right.
My internet's good. Hey,
Now we got Brady. Okay.
Am I
all
good?
right.
All
Yep.
right. So for you people who don't know, well, Brady,
Sweet.
I'm not going to introduce you. You go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell the people, plug your show, plug everything.
Hey, Brady Tranthem here. Through the Keyhole, Sooners on SI. That's where you can hear my craziness or read my craziness. Go check it out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, with that being said, again, fall camp is well underway. We had like a mini scrimmage last night. A lot of different notes, a lot of really good stuff that's coming out. A lot of great conversations being had about this team, locally and on the national level as well. But I think first, where we want to start before we get into some of the stuff Chris Mason has for us tonight is with you, Brady. You've been out there, you've interviewed Mateer all the way down the roster. So you've had a chance, to be in person with these guys, talk to them on and off the field or whatnot, and just we want to kind of get your first impressions and then also your expectations for this team this year.
Well, first of all, Chris and Chris, thank you for letting me jump on your show. Number two, I thought you were going to throw Andy Bass under the bus there for a second because you said you've talked to John Mateer all the way down to Andy Bass,
Nah.
which we did. We talked to Andy on Tuesday, and he was in great spirits, and it was good to see him at least be able to try to make an impact, which he is in fall camp, and we'll see if that's going to play into the season. Of course, I mean it's anybody's game in the running back room, as we all know, but. Yeah, it's. I mean, the vibes are pretty good. I mean, but quite frankly, the vibes have been good since spring. This is a program that has the talent, especially on defense, and they seem to have the talent on offense. And it's just about putting it all together on Saturday, from the offensive line to the running game to the wide receivers, and then of course to John Mateer, the quarterback. It's just trying to get all their ducks in a row, trying to get everybody essentially. We know how it's supposed to look at a place like the University of Oklahoma. Can it look like that against UTEP? Can it look like that against Michigan? And it might sound silly to say, can it look like that against UTEP? But if you guys remember, I mean, last year against Illinois State, the offense kind of didn't really sputter, but it wasn't entirely awesome for the first few series, and it took them a little bit to get going. And of course, Illinois State ended up being a pretty damn good football team in their own right, but still, this is OU, so they've got 2.5 or some odd weeks left of fall camp, and you just hope that they're able to stay healthy. And if they are, they should have a much better product on the field in terms of the offense. And I think we all kind of are under the safe assumption that the defense is going to be damn near elite, if not the best defense in the country.
All right, all right. Well, hey, look, I'm really excited about this team. Again, Chris Mason know that I've said it an awful lot this spring and summer. I feel like just to kind of give you an analogy, I think that they went and got the keys to really unlock this offense. I think last year you were kind of fighting with your hand tied behind your back, especially when Mateer injured his hand, right? So I think that was something that really played into it. But again, we've listening to you on the radio. Talk with your guys. You guys have talked to David Stone, all the rest of them. I think the common theme is not just hey he's throwing from up here opposed to there. He's doing this, he's doing that. I think the common theme that I'm starting to hear from a lot of people is that he just feels comfortable in the pocket now. I think he's trusting his offensive line, he's trusting his playmakers to actually make plays opposed to just putting it on his back.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's always been a thing when it comes to the offseason improvement conversation with John Mateer. It tended to kind of like lean more towards like the mechanics, the sidearm, like you talked about. I mean, in my opinion, if you could fix anything with John Mateer physically, it's just the lower body footwork in the pocket, out of the pocket. if you could change that and make it better, I think you have like the makings of an NFL, like a high-end NFL draft pick. But this isn't create a player. This isn't Madden. This isn't NCAA. You can't do it that way. But that kind of plays into it as well, Chris, what you were talking about in terms of just being more comfortable in the pocket, being more comfortable with the play, trusting his teammates. Because I don't know how many sacks OU's offensive line is credited for giving up last year. I would be willing to bet that at least half of them were John Mateer's fault, because he might bail on the play, lose confidence in the play, and then kind of fan out to one particular side, usually to his left, and then he gets sacked, or then they lose a few yards. And it's just a play that just doesn't need to happen. The plays aren't always going to work. You're playing great opponents, like especially in the SEC, basically every week. Their plays aren't always going to work, but you don't have to take negative yardage. And that's a big part of the growth that John Mateer, we are all hoping, has made this offseason. But again, you're never going to know until you're behind live fire at Michigan, at Georgia, in the Cotton Bowl. That's where the OU legends are made, or in big games like that. And for all this talk, I mean, it's great talk. It's great to see a quarterback of his stature kind of look himself in the mirror and understand that it didn't go the way that he envisioned in 2025. Some of that, if not a lot of that, was because of his injury. But at the same time, he's a gamer, he's a competitor, and he knows that even with that injury, he should have played better. So it's nice to know that a high-end quarterback like that is willing to take a step back, seek some outside help, and try to put together the best possible product he possibly can in 2026.
Chris Mason, just kind of going to you. I think the thing that kind of gives me the most comfort, or gives me a lot of comfort with obviously running it back with Mateer, is the simple fact that defense travels. I don't think that there's a game on our schedule this year that we're sitting here saying, like, look, Texas fans, you guys coming here, we understand, we get it. We know that we know what's been happening these last couple of years, but even at that game last year was 13-6 until it wasn't, right? Until we had a, whatever you want to call it, with that kick return, right? So until we really had that game was 13-6. So I feel like this defense is going to keep you in a lot of those games. Can the offense be better? But again, from laying my eyes on him during spring game and up till now, it just seems like he's really built upon that, as far as just creating more consistency between reps, between drives, between practices, all the rest of that stuff. So I'm happy and I'm excited to see what he's going to do this year. Mainly just because, again, it's not necessarily the sidearm or any of that stuff that really has me impressed, but I think that when you're an upperclassman, when you're a junior, you're a senior, I'm looking to see, hey, are you climbing the pocket? Even when it's not comfortable, are you still trying to climb to find alleyways, maybe even just to run? But, are you looking down the field? Are you still trying to get a pass? Are you still trying to, keep the play, the integrity of the play, or are you just breaking off, right? I think those are things that we've been asking a lot of our quarterbacks these last couple of years to do. Obviously, Dylan was one who was able to do that. But again, his second year, I think, is comparable to that. He came back, really good defense. That was kind of the beginning of where we're at now, right? In my opinion. And you saw what he was able to do. So again, you went 10-2, 10-3 last year, and this tough conference with a even tougher schedule, I believe, last year. So I feel good about it. But what's your thoughts about it, Chris Mason? What gives you comfort running it back with Mateer?
Well, I mean, he just seems to be fairly. He seems to be willing to take criticism. He seems pretty self-reflective. He's gone into the lab and done, he's sitting down with Brent, sitting down with Sam Bradford. Obviously, Stoya's story about him going through the motion capture thing and getting all of that sort of digital data on how he was doing things and how he could improve things, working with the guy that's helped the Buffalo Bills quarterback, Josh Allen. It just seems like he could have easily just said, "Hey, I was hurt, right? I'm going to be healthy this year. Things will be fine." Instead, he seems to have taken kind of a holistic view of improving every aspect of what he could do, and I think that level of self-analysis of, yes, I can get so much better, and I can get better in all these areas, and I'm going to ask for help from every resource I think could help me. quarterbacks are, you got to be high level of confidence and arrogance to play college quarterback, right?
Yeah.
And to be able to be that willing to absorb feedback and work on your craft, I think says a lot. I mean, I think John's always had the leadership sort of intangibles at quarterback that everybody looks for, and his willingness to just sort of go under the hood and just work on the different aspects of his game. That's the reason why I'm pretty confident about what we might get out of John. As a okay, Chris and I obviously covered the portal in January and covered all the recruiting stuff going on. The portal pieces being added on offense. The feedback there is pretty strong from camp. And it sounds like some of the young wide receivers are starting to find their stride in the program, which is a I think a big addition. I think there's a lot of talent in the wide receiver room. Now it seems to be kind of clicking, and then the lowest hanging fruit, right? The tight end room, it's just night and day.
Yeah.
The three guys you have. I mean, maybe this is an unpopular opinion, but a lot of people are asking me who should come back with this whole fifth year thing, and they're like, should Jaron Cannick come back? And I'm like, to be our fourth string tight end? Why would he leave the NFL to be our fourth string tight end? And they were like, well, he's much better than that. I'm like, is he going to play? Is he going to play more than is he now 6'5", 260? I think he's still 6'2", 235. So I think that's a big piece of what a reason why. Plus, I think the coaching changes on offense are also, we're going to get some. I think it's the best coaching staff Brent's had to date, top to bottom, offense and defense.
Brady, just kind of piggybacking off of that and just kind of using that as a segue, studying this roster, again, being around the team and all the rest of that stuff and doing all your articles, writing, reporting on the team, like what players, or, I guess group, on this team are you most interested in, seeing, how they react, how they play, when we get into the season?
You talking offense or just any one of them?
Any group,
defense?
any group.
I mean, I think the correct answer is offensive line, because if the offensive line doesn't make the jump that we're all assuming that they will, because you're talking about primarily three guys that played a lot as either a redshirt freshman or as a true freshman, their jump going into their second seasons, if they don't make that jump, I don't think really any of this really matters, because, I mean, we saw them with a fairly good pass blocking offensive line last year, and those three guys were a big part of it as well. And even then, John Mateer just would oftentimes lose confidence either in himself, in the play, in the protection. Maybe he misread something, and the play would ultimately fail. If they're not able to run the football or establish a run, and again, I don't think anyone's asking for Adrian Peterson level rushing attack. That would be great. It would be awesome. It'd make things a lot easier for everybody. But if they can just get a running game that when they walk into Athens, let's say that they've beaten Michigan, they should beat Michigan. I know that they're not favored, but that's how I'm kind of holding them accountable in terms of that game. Let's say they beat Michigan. I want Georgia to feel like, okay, we've got to respect their run game. We can't just key on John Mateer and try to take him out of the game, get him rattled early, and then kind of snowball it from there. You hope that Xavier Robinson, Lloyd Avant, Torrey Blaylock, if he's healthy and ready to go by that point, Jonathan Hatton, Zephan Walker, any of these guys, you hope that they showcase something against Michigan to the point where Georgia now has to worry about the running game, because that, of course, means that the offensive line has made that jump. They have done their job. So, to me, that's kind of the important thing. If the offensive line makes that jump, the tight ends are going to be a big part of the offense as a result. The running game is going to be a big part of the offense as a result. John Mateer's life will be so much easier, and then the skill position players will be able to feast off of that, off of those consequences. So, to me, it's just the offensive line. It's a safe assumption to assume that they will be better. How much better, that's what we're all kind of waiting for.
All right. Hey, Brady, real quick. Can you turn your mic up just a little bit? Some of them are having a little bit trouble hearing you right now.
Sure. It's pretty
Okay.
loud.
Pro- Talk for me again.
Boom, boom, boom.
All
That's
right.
better. That's
Yeah,
better.
that's better.
Boom,
That's better.
boom her. Boom her.
All right. Well, no. I agree with that. I think the offensive line will be one of the more interesting parts. It's because again, like I think Chris Mason. I asked you last week, like, when's the last time we came into the season with with somebody that we all believe is a clear cut first round pick. I'm not talking about like late first round. I'm talking about like, hey, lottery, right? Or excuse me, I'm talking about like, hey, those first 10 picks in Fasusi, right? But I think you got guys across the offensive line. It seems like you're building depth there somewhat. Noah Best. You heard about some other guys. I know I think they've talked about Peyton Joseph just a tad bit, but Noah Best seems to be the name that you're hearing about the most. But Chris Mason, where else you want to go tonight?
Well, Brady, based upon the interviews you've had, do you get the sense that they feel like the offensive line is going to be improved? I mean, I know you're saying it's kind of the linchpin. I think we all agree with you there. Do you, in the interviews and access you've had, do you think you're getting that level of confidence from the offensive guys? Does Batir sound confident in his O-line?
Yeah, I mean they all sound confident, and I think the biggest thing to remember, and especially it always makes me, and I understand it, like I understand this. Whenever reporting from like scrimmages does come out from some outlet, from George, whoever it might be, like it's remember OU is playing itself, so people will either read something and go that's great, or oh my god it's like a disaster. Like who do you want to like have the edge in a scrimmage? In an inter-squad scrimmage, like the offense or the defense, and everybody's going to have their own opinion or their own answer to that question. I think we all know the defense is the strength of the team. So it is nice to hear reporting that the offense actually had an upper hand in a scrimmage, because that should mean, well, if the offense can do that against them, then Michigan shouldn't be that daunting, or even Texas shouldn't be that daunting with Will Muschamp as their defensive coordinator for some reason. So when it comes to like John Mateer or anybody else on the offense who you ask about the offensive line, it's always the same answers. Like they've put in the work, they've seen the growth, they've seen the progress, not just in the unit as a whole, but in individuals like Eddie Pierre-Louis or and Ryan Foje, who's had to move around already a few times in fall camp. And now it seems like they're adding not a lot, but they're adding some depth to the unit that we're all kind of accustomed with right now, which is of course a great sign for not just the future, but for the present, because when you're 300 some odd pounds and you're 6'5", like an ankle roll is pretty common, and if you have to go miss a series or two, don't worry, Noah Best can come out there apparently with the glowing reviews that he's earned. So it really seems like they worked on one particular thing on offense. Of course, they're working on a zillion different things, but what was the mission statement? Improve the running game. They've said it. They've done it. We're ultimately not going to know until they start playing football games that matter, that we can all watch. But to me, it doesn't seem like there's any concern. Now, that can change, but that's exactly where you want to be. You just want to have a team that's confident in the work that they put in, and you want them to have the belief that it will work once the season actually starts.
Okay, because it seems like overall, I mean, when Brent said they had 9 offensive linemen who they could play winning football with at the SEC Media Days, a lot of us were like, okay, well, we know who 6 of them are, but I'm not really sure who the next 3 are. So it seems like obviously Noah Best is one of them. It seems like Deacon Schmidt is making his way into that group. But after that, you've heard some stuff about Fred Hinton. Obviously, that was from Teddy Lehman. We've heard a little bit about Peyton Joseph, but it's the best stuff. Was really good to hear. Because now you sort of have some flexibility, right? We know that you have 3 tackles with Harris, Fasusi, and Foji, and now you've got basically 4 interior guys at this point, plus Makala. Not hearing a whole lot about Caleb Nida. so far. So it was still trying to figure out who they think their ninth guy is, but it was it was nice to hear that the mini scrimmage the other night that the offense played well and that they played well without Ozeta and Fasusi.
That's kind of where you want to be. Like you don't want to. I think it's pretty common and easy to understand that the defense at this point in the year is going to have the upper hand. I mean, they know what's coming. This is a defensive-led team. Brent Venables is the head coach. The defense is going to have the upper hand, and I don't think you'd really want it any other way around. But at the same time, you don't want the offense to be completely inept. But just from a very basic standpoint, very overall basic standpoint, if the defense is, at the very least, if they're as good as they were last year, a top 3, top 5 SP plus total defense, which is of course elite, well then you might find one, maybe 2 teams on OU's very difficult schedule that have maybe a better defense than OU, maybe more talented defense, maybe not better overall defense. Maybe they're better at some things than Oklahoma's defense, but not all of them. That should be where the offense would want to live day to day is, hey, Saturday is not as daunting as going up against David Stone or Kip Lewis or Cole Sullivan and these guys. It's not as daunting to try to throw into tight windows when you've got Cortland Guillory or Eli Bowen out there like baiting you into throwing interceptions like we know that they're capable of doing. So that's kind of the hope, is that the defense kind of forges this offense. I think we all saw kind of like the seeds of that last year, but it was just always, you've got 3 freshmen on the offensive line, you've got no running game, plus your quarterback has a broken wing and probably he had an injury to his leg. It was never really fully confirmed what it was, but it hampered his ability to run the football, which is a big part of why he's such a talented and dynamic quarterback. And if you take that away from your offense, well, then it's just going to be much more difficult for you. So everything, you wrap him, put him in bubble wrap or whatever, do something, be healthy, just get to UTEP healthy, and maybe we'll probably see a much better product.
All right. Chris Mason?
Yeah, I was just wondering, Brady, are you surprised? I got to say, probably the biggest surprise, I guess, at this point would be the Lloyd Avant as maintaining RB1 through so much practice. Obviously, Torrey Blaylock getting banged up and Jonathan Hatton getting banged up hasn't helped the running back position. But so do you think Lloyd Avant can pull off RB1 for a couple of weeks, or is this going to be the story of the season that he's somehow comes out of nowhere to be OU's lead back?
I think that's a personal preference question, mainly because I think people have this idea that, well, when Xavier Robinson is healthy, which has not been often, but when he has been healthy, he has an ability to do it in the SEC against high-end competition, like at a very high level. Does he have all the physical tools that you want? No, but he does, even with his physical nature, his kind of stocky build, he still has an ability that when he gets into the open field, he could run away from dudes, which is not something that OU has been able to enjoy. Even going back to Eric Gray, who was probably statistically the last great OU running back. Even he was more of an agile guy that would make guys miss in the first and second level, but didn't really have the breakaway speed that even Xavier Robinson has. So when he's healthy, it should be him, right? And then you can kind of find other OU fans that have just fallen in love. And hand up, I'm one of those people that's fallen in love with Jonathan Hatton, because it's impossible not to look at him and go, that's the future right there. That is your prototypical running back. Has the Adrian Peterson look in terms of the biceps, the build, the legs, he's got a glide that the other guys don't have, which again, this is practice. They're running in straight lines against air, but you can still point things out like that. Lloyd Avant, when he's running his fastest, it looks like he's running really hard. Same thing with Xavier Robinson. Same thing with Torrey Blaylock when we've seen him back in spring, or when we've seen him a little bit running earlier this fall camp. When it's Jonathan Hatton, it just looks like he's not even trying. That is something special. But again, he's a freshman, and I'll admit, even sometimes when we've seen them run some individual drills before he got banged up, on Tuesday. He does have this kind of like, he's not as nimble of foot as everybody else because he is taller and he is bigger. Plus, he's still learning kind of on the job in terms of being a college running back. So maybe that will play against him getting a lot of early playing time, I guess, compared to a Lloyd Avant, compared to a Xavier Robinson if he's healthy. But again, I think it's just a personal preference. I think Lloyd Avant is a good, capable back. He proved it at Colorado State. I mean, Colorado, it's funny. You look at his numbers and Rocky Beers' numbers combined, and you probably would think like, Colorado State must have been pretty damn good. Look, this guy had like 8 touchdowns. This guy had 5 touchdowns. They must have been pretty good. And he wasn't even the starter. Oh, wait, they were like one of the worst teams in FBS. That's odd. So, I think Lloyd Avant is a fine running back, and I think, he kind of showcased that in the spring game when he was the starting running back with the ones on offense, and the offense looked like a normal, good OU offense, like they should. They ran their offense accordingly. So, if that be the case, I think OU's running game is in good hands with Lloyd Avant, and I'll just keep saying it. It's all about the offensive line. If the offensive line makes the jump that we think that they should, then the 3 of us can run through those holes for 4 or 5 yards before we get tackled and cry and get hurt because we're not college athletes. But that's the whole point, is the offensive line needs to do their job so that Lloyd Avant or whomever it might be is able to have a much easier job ahead of them.
All right. No, I honestly, just piggybacking off of that, I agree as well. I think that it definitely is a personal choice. Chris Mason knows Chris Mason knows who I want personally. It probably would be X-Rob. I think X-Rob is the best back on this team when healthy, if healthy. So that's the whole thing. I think he right now, as today, I think he's the most complete and ready for the grind, but we'll have to see. The thing with Hatton, just going all the way back to spring, I just think that, I was like, okay, when he finally says, hey, I'm going to actually declare, I'm going to actually make the cut, I'm going to actually get upfield, that's whenever he's going to be special. Because it was like, right now, he looks like DeMarco, or he looks like a DeMarco back out there just really trying to, follow that offensive line, do this. And I was like, with this new scheme or, just this new thinking with that running game, I was like, he's going to have to get better at that. But when he did actually, get upfield, declare, cut, all the rest of that stuff looked good. Really wasn't any difference between him and Walker, except for Walker had some really explosive runs. But I'm excited to see what happens with this running back room, mainly because it's going to be a story I think that we're going to have to follow the entire year, the entire, all the way up to the portal, to be honest with you, if we're just being totally honest. Go ahead.
Real quick, I have a question for both of you guys, because I wrote this on Sooners on SI. I don't know if you guys caught it. If you didn't, it's okay. But I went back and looked, how truly bad was the running attack last year? And it was the first time since Bob Stoops' first season that OU didn't even have a single running back rush for over 500 yards, which to me was just the lowest level of competent running attack. Is if you have 3 or 4 guys that primarily run the ball, if one of them goes for 500, you're more than likely going to be rushing for 12, 13, 1400 yards. To me, it was that simple. And yeah, last year they had 2 guys go for 380, 390, and that was it. And it was just bad. And when John Mateer gets hurt, that kind of hampers your ability to even get more rushing yards. So, to me, one guy has to at least have 700 yards. What do you guys think? What's the lowest? Okay, the running game has improved at the end of the year. When you look at the stats, the breakdown, what is the lowest? I guess whoever is the primary running back, how many yards should they at least have, knowing that 2 or 3 other guys are going to carry the rock?
I'm going to put this up on the screen. Chris Mason, you can go ahead and respond just so everybody can see what I returned.
Yeah. So I guess Brady. I guess I'm more concerned. I'm more concerned with I guess the 700-yard number sounds about right to me. But I guess what I really want to see is that the primary running backs, and if it's 3 guys, if it's 4 guys, I'm not sure I really care who's doing it. I just want their yards per carry number to be significantly higher than last year, right? That I want it to be. So, Torrey Blaylock was 4 yards, and Xavier was 5.1, and that's really it. So that's about 4.5 yards, right? Which is not great in a college game. So I would prefer that they're closer to, we're closer to something like 5 yards per carry from our running backs. If you can give me that, plus I think the 700 number you're talking about, that would be the sign that would be a good sign of the running game. I mean, you have 1,500 if non-material rushing yards. I really need to see something closer to 1,800, 2,000.
Yeah. No, like Dylan McCullough, very soft-spoken. When I can be like 10 yards from the running backs and I can barely hear him talk. He's not a screamer. He's not a yeller. But there's one thing that I've heard him say, and it makes a lot of sense. And it kind of goes into, I'm sure you guys saw the video clip that Colton Soley put out from the Oklahoman of them running through the gauntlet, then having the trash can lean one way or the other, just teaching his running backs wiggle, which is maybe DeMarco Murray didn't teach them that over the last few years. But I did hear Dylan McCullough say, like, kind of out loud, because their whole thing this year, other than just improving the run game, is I want 3 yards after contact. Like I want 3.5 yards after contact for all of his running backs. And I heard him just kind of yell, it's a lot easier to break to get yards after contact if the first guy hitting you is a defensive back. So it's just like the whole thing that he is preaching to them is, if the hole is there, make the linebacker miss. You guys are running backs at Oklahoma. You should be able to do that in the open field. And then, like, if a cornerback hits you, you can just, like, get off me. So it's nice to know that that's what the running back coach is just preaching basic football knowledge of, like, hey, make the guy miss. Don't make it hard on your body. Don't make it hard on yourself. Just go to space. It's that simple.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, I think the Dayland hire was obviously big. The running back room needed a new voice. DeMarco had kind of, I think, I'm not going to relitigate the DeMarco Murray issue. I just think Dayland, a new voice in that room, and getting perhaps the best guy you could find. I mean, the fact that he became available and OU was able to grab him before he hit the open market, with the way the running back coaching market was at that point, was huge. And that was a heavy sign to me that Brent's reputation in the coaching world is doing pretty well, because the ability to get him. Lamar Morgan really wanted this job at Oklahoma. He aggressively got himself in consideration for the cornerback job. So I just think Dayland, will make a change there. But yeah, you're right though. I mean, it's Chris has been watching the old 07 and 08 Sooners, and it's like, okay, it's Sam Bradford was awesome, right? But when you have three running backs like Alan Patrick, Chris Brown, and DeMarco Murray, who are toting the rock for 2,300, 2,500 yards, kind of makes things a little easier. Obviously Phil Loadholt, Trent Williams also make things abundantly easier. So, but it's just, I think you're right. The O-line's job one. If O-line does their job, the running backs then, I think you're right. They need to be, somebody needs to click and get some big yardage and their yards per carry needs to be a higher number at least. At least if you've got a by committee approach, I can handle that. But I think you're right. We need at least one of them to be at the 700-yard mark. And obviously one last thing. I mean, as we said, all the liabilities the offense had at the end of last year, they didn't have any healthy running backs either. I mean, Robinson's got his knee. I mean, the Alabama game, they didn't have a healthy running back at all.
I'm not going to say the three-lettered last name that we could say, but I digress.
Well, the Chiefs to have him playing the Chiefs, he's not going to make the Chiefs from the sound of it. So that's not just an OU problem. So
hey, if he wanted to come back to college, like if he doesn't make the Chiefs roster, can OU release him so that he can just go to Cal? Like he wasn't in the portal. We understand that, but he's free. We've cut him essentially. He can go wherever he wants.
I do not. I think he's pretty sure he signed a contract of some kind. So
That's a
okay.
train wreck. That's still a train wreck.
that's still a train wreck. But yeah, I think when you talk about the running back game, we just need to see, figure out by the time you're playing, the time you go to Georgia, right? Figure out who's going to be your bell cow running back, at least, as you said, to get you the 3-4 yards on first down, so you're not constantly in 3rd and 8, right? Against Kirby Smart on the road and that defense. So who's going to be that back?
Questions. We'll get our answers pretty soon. Chris Mason, let's go ahead and jump into the whole to your whole shebang tonight that you want to do.
Okay, all right. Well, Brady, since you've been here, so this is my opinion on who's on a camp temperature check on who's hot. So I got a hot list for you, so you can either tell me I'm crazy, or say yes, you're moderately right on this. So this is the guys I've got that are currently hot on the hot list. You've been around it, so I think the Cole Sullivan one's kind of a gimme. Noah Best is obviously based upon, if nothing else, Ryan Foge's comments about him smashing Jaden Jackson and sitting on top of him puts him on the hot list. The Bowens clearly are having a hot camp. Elijah Thomas seems to be, based upon what we're hearing, Gabe talking about him taking a jet sweep for 70 yards, and George Stoya kind of talking about him.
Chris Mason, just 1 second. Brady, when if you want to give your hot take that we talked about this morning about Eli Thomas, I mean you can do it whenever you want, but I digress. Chris Mason, keep going.
Okay, well, Parker Livingston, Mateer from the mini scrimmage, Tristan Haynes, I know he just got banged up, but we're hearing a lot of hype about him. Reggie Powers and X-Rob. That's the hot list as of this morning when I came up with it.
I mean, I don't really have anything to say that in terms of like that those are wrong. I would just say there's some additions that probably need to be made, like one of them being Tank Carrington, because apparently he's the greatest defensive lineman to ever play football.
Okay.
According to David Stone, Jaden Jackson, and Nigel Smith, like they all say the same things about him. And I mean, I've said it a few times, and so I feel like a broken record at this point. But media day, I asked Jaden Jackson about Nigel Smith and Trent Wilson, and he gave like an answer for about 20 seconds, and then he just brought up Tank Carrington, and it was like, no, he's great. He is physically ready as a freshman right now, and it's just like, oh, okay. And then asked David Stone about it a few weeks later, and then boom, it's like the Tank Carrington hype train has like been in full force. He's going to be very much a part of the, I guess, the rotation for the interior of the defensive line as far as we know. And I would say outside of him, I mean, if you're going to put Xavier Robinson, I would agree, but I think you need to also have Lloyd Vaughn there as well. But maybe that kind of reveals your preference, Chris. Maybe that just kind of like, I want it to be Xavier Robinson. It should be Xavier Robinson. I would agree. I think Xavier Robinson's back, most complete back in the running back room right now. And then after that, I would say Jashir Rogers. Jashir Rogers has had a fairly good camp from what I've heard, from what I've seen just at practice, the few times we've been able to go out there. It's nice to see Elijah Thomas starting to make plays and starting to able to apply his physical gifts onto the football field, because we all can see them. We can see them. We saw them on special teams last year, but running routes, being in sync with your quarterback and your offensive coordinator and all those things, it's hard. It's not easy. If it was easy, we'd all be doing it, but it's hard, and it takes some guys a little bit longer than others. And so it's nice to see Elijah Thomas, if he's able to do that, get on the field, he's going to be a big plus. But I think Jashir Rogers is a guy that the staff is already recognizing that you need to get the ball in his hands somehow, some way. And maybe he won't be able to crack the wide receiver rotation early on because there are just 3 or 4 guys who are proven at this point. But outside of that, like, hey, he's out there with Peyton Bowen punt returning. So that they want him to have the ball in his hands at some point early and often.
Okay, well, that was the hot list. So this is the warm list. So, again, just thrown together this morning. And And to be fair, I do have Jasir Rogers heavily on, so I've got Jonathan Hatton was hot before the injury, cooled down a little bit. Jasir Rogers, Jack Van Dorselaer, I just didn't want to spell it all out. Jake Makala, Deacon Schmidt, Derek Johnson apparently is getting some good reps and getting some cornerback play. Apparently had a good spring as well. I got Andy Bass here, and I got Lloyd Avant. I'm not sure Lloyd can ever be hot. He's mainly he's warm. He's not cold, but he's
Chris, you've been watching the 07 team, is 07-08 team. Like, is Lloyd Avant is he just Chris Brown? Is that his comp?
You know what? Honestly, that's a great question, and that's a great comp. Honestly, I think that's kind of who he could be. I mean, hey, by the end of the season, he could be your Moses Madu, right? Kind of coming there out of nowhere, and just hey, he's scoring touchdowns. He's running all over the place after that defense has just been worn down, right? Just kind of that spark plug. Yeah.
So any am I missing anybody on the warm list here, Brady? Anybody you want to add?
No, I hope Trent Wilson and Nigel Smith aren't on your, like, I'm assuming there's a cold list. Hopefully they're not there. I'd put especially I would especially put Trent Wilson, maybe not Nigel. We did talk to him on Tuesday, but Trent is, from what I've been able to see, Trent, I mean, he looks like a guy that's been playing in this program for 3 years, and this is his second year. And he got on the field a little bit, like a lot more, which was still not a lot, but he got on the field a lot more than Nigel did last year. But in Nigel's defense, he was still trying to bulk up to be a defensive lineman.
And he was hurt.
Coming here. So, yeah, and he was hurt after coming to OU as an edge. But Trent, it's going to be like, it's a good problem to have for Todd Bates and Brent Venables, but it's going to be hard to like really fine tune the rotation, because I think there might be a temptation to want to play David Stone and Jaden Jackson more because they're awesome and they could be like two of the better players in all of college football if they're healthy. But at the same time, you want to ensure that they're healthy, so you throw in like 3 or 4 other guys in a game, and you just need to find that chemistry as quickly as possible, considering how tough their schedule is. But I'd say maybe Trent should be on there, and everybody else I agree with.
Okay, all right. Well, we've had the positives here. We've been focused on the positives. So we're about to go. We're about to go in a slightly negative direction. So bear with me, Sooner fans. So, and a lot of this is.
I was going to say, what if Tate Sandel's on this list?
He's not. I mean, not that I've heard.
Are you ready?
No.
There we go.
All right. So this is the freezing list. Have I missed anything about these names? I mean, a lot of them.
They all look spelled correctly. Yeah.
Okay. Because I mean, I know a bunch of them are hurt. I know Bo Jandro's hurt. Alpha Lava's hurt. Someone told me Carrion is hurt. Is that right?
No, he was practicing on Tuesday. So unless he got hurt,
okay. So it just seems like we're not hearing these names, and we're hearing freshmen ahead of them.
Chris Mason, you and this Jandro, man. You've been after this Jandro kid since his senior year in high school. Go on, man.
Do I officially have my first real agenda, Chris?
Yes, because you've been after this kid since his junior year. Jesus.
Well, that's not true. I couldn't have been on him since his junior year. I mean,
you get what I'm saying.
I keep wanting to not be on. I mean, I'm giving his brother as much props as I can, but it just seems like he. I mean, did he? He's in. We can't get a. We're obviously not going to get an injury report on him, but he missed all of spring, and now he's. I mean, it would be less of an issue if Jacob Curry wasn't hurt and Taylor Heim wasn't hurt, but linebackers a little. It's not thin, but they signed 4 guys in December, and only one of them is currently playing.
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of hoping that, I know it's not the exact same position, but you're kind of hoping that James Nesta is definitely a dude. In whatever role he gets to play, because if he is not ready, if he just isn't good as the coaching staff hopes, then oh boy. Marcus James looks like $1 billion. I really want to see him out on the field, but we've not seen him on the field. So it's like some guys look the part and they don't play the part, and that's the unfortunate thing about football sometimes. But yeah, you're like on a little bit of thin ice with the linebackers, but it's just so top heavy with how great and how talented they are.
Yeah, I mean, the top three, it's going to be, the reports on Nesta are all very positive. I mean, it's like the other stuff we keep hearing. And as you said, I'm happy to see Marcus James has the no contact blue jersey off. And you're right, he looks like he looks like you built him in a lab to play outside linebacker. I mean, he's absurd. So and Dane Bathurst from Indiana, the freshman, has had a good spring, good summer. He looks good out there as well. I'm not sure we're going to see a lot of him because, as you said, it's going to be tough for her. It's going to be tough for Nesta to get reps, let alone anybody else, with those three guys rotating. If Reggie Powers is manning Cheetah, that three linebacker rotation is going to soak up almost all the reps.
I'm curious if there's going to be like another Owen Heineke this year, and not necessarily just a linebacker. I'm talking about guys that have been in the program for a few years that haven't really seen the field that often. And it's a Brent Venables team. Like, the defense is always going to be very good, and therefore the development's going to be very good. And so all it takes is just finally getting your opportunity. And for some guys, it's early on. Other guys like Owen, it was year 3, year 4. I wonder who that's going to be, because there's going to be a guy, like, maybe he's not as like, oh wow, he's like a butt kiss candidate in the waiting, but someone's going to come out of nowhere and make an impact. And I'm just curious, like, what position group should it be from? Maybe it should be from linebacker, maybe the edge, because edge just kind of in the same spot.
Wyatt Gilmore would be the guy. It would be Nesta, Wyatt Gilmore, and Bogo, or like the 3-year guys who seem ready to perhaps have a Taylor Wine type season, right? Like, whoa, where did that guy come from?
Yeah.
From that perspective. But yeah, it's I don't like the freezing list there. So let me put the cold list up, because there's a controversial name on there that we should probably talk about. So, all right.
There's a question. Why not offensively? It's because this staff has not proven anything yet. That's why. Why
does it keep pulling up this stuff? Oh. It keeps pulling up that file. Let me. I must have misnamed some things here. 1 second, Chris. All right, what's going on here?
Grayson Miller.
Interesting. Actually, now that actually is interesting. I didn't think about that, because I don't know. I've always had this false sense of hope with Ulrich. I don't know. Maybe it's just that whatever happened, that debacle that happened in that Bama game, maybe that just left a bad.
I mean, as far as I know, it's still an open competition. But I mean, Doug Deacon would have told you that last year, even during the season, it was a competition still, even though Grayson Miller was the starter.
All right, here we
essentially go. all year.
Yep.
All right. So here's the cold check. So obviously, Mackenzie Aline was kind of the guy in spring, right? He was the walk-on unheralded wide receiver who was stunning everybody. Looked good in the spring game, and he's hurt, right? I think Mackenzie's hurt. So, but the other obviously Torrey's hurt, and he's falling behind a little bit at running back. Brady, do you think he's hurt? Do you think he's hurt most of this camp?
Torrey?
Yeah.
We should have at least one more practice viewing, maybe 2. I would probably guess at least one more, because of course, like, they're gonna have their first like real scrimmage tomorrow, and then we're gonna go talk to Brent sometime around noon tomorrow. So afterwards, I would imagine we get one more practice viewing maybe next week, because we haven't seen them have like situational, like one-on-one, or like offensive line versus defensive line. We've not gotten that far yet, and I think they'll give us at least one more. if by that point Torrey's not like going at least half speed in some drills, I'd be like, this might be a thing where it bleeds into the regular season. And maybe that just means he's just not available for UTEP, and then he's available for Michigan because that's still, 4 weeks away. I know that there's some reporting out there about his injury. That makes sense just from like when I was out there watching him kind of limp around a little bit. It wasn't a very noticeable limp, but those kind of injuries, like, they can linger for a little bit. So hopefully the next time if we get a chance to go see the team practice, I want to see Torrey like, I mean, kind of like what Trell Harris was on Tuesday, where we went into fall camp thinking he was just, according to Emmett Jones, he's going to be running routes with the trainers. He's not going to be with the team. And then a week later, he's out there like with the team, like running drills. Like, I want to see that with Torrey Blaylock so that I can be confident that he'll be healthy for UTEP.
All right, so the last cold name we didn't talk about is it fair to say Bo Bentley is in the cold zone?
Well, I mean, it again, it depends on your expectations for an 18-year-old quarterback. I guess like that spring game was really bad, but I mean, I think didn't Kyler or Baker have like an awful spring game? I know Sam Bradford threw like 3 picks in the spring game going into the year he won the Heisman. So it ultimately just doesn't matter.
Kyler, pardon my French, had a shitty spring game.
Yeah, Kyler had an awful spring game.
I mean, he was like he looked like a quarterback who'd been playing baseball all spring.
I guess that makes sense. But yeah, it was bad, but it was bad in a way where it's like, yeah, he's still a little bit of ways to go. So that kind of like took away any thought that maybe he's like this kind of level of quarterback that is ready for day one. And I think for OU's purposes, it's probably best that he's not absolutely ready, because you want him to be a guy that sticks around and develops with this staff. I don't think you want him to think like, I should be starting day one. Maybe he might think that, but he does not play like it. So it's kind of a good situation for him and OU to be in at the same time, considering the transfer portal era we all live in. So, again, I just didn't have really any expectations after spring with Bo Bentley in terms of like what should I expect to see in fall. Like, Whit Newbauer is your second string quarterback, which is good for him, but I mean, nobody wants to see your starting quarterback get hurt at all. So, like, sorry, it's not Bo Bentley.
Yeah. So you're not reading you don't think we should be reading much into Bentley not making much of a charge at the second string quarterback?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, because he's working on a whole lot of other things rather than just trying to beat somebody out for QB2,
okay,
if that makes sense.
Yeah. It does present this is more of a December, January question, but it certainly does present an interesting question as to, I mean, when you look at the roster, obviously there's going to be a lot lost on defense next year. But if the O-line is the O-line we think it's going to be, right, and it plays at a high level, you got 4 of those pieces returning. You've got Best and Deacon Schmidt, seeming like they're ready to perhaps help. And you'd have a wide receiver core and a running back core for the most. I mean, we may lose a running back to the portal, but it's going to be because the guy's not playing, right? Of the running backs that are going to return next year are going to be the guys that have played the best.
Yeah,
and, Xavier Robinson blowing up with some great season and going pro or something like that. Because the rest of the guys are not really, they're not pro eligible really. So it just seems like it's interesting if Whit Newbauer is the only guy we see this year as a backup, or then we don't have any visibility into Bo Bentley. It sets an interesting offseason.
I mean, I'll say this for Bo. I mean, you guys remember the days where, like, the players like Bo Bentley, like the young players who are either redshirting or they're like buried under the depth chart. You wouldn't hear that much about them in spring. You wouldn't hear that much if they were here in spring. You wouldn't hear that much about them during fall camp. You wouldn't hear that much about them during the regular season. But then you get to the bowl game, and then when Stoops would have all the younger players get all like the 1 reps, that's when you started to hear like, hey, Sam Bradford's like really good. Like he's like slinging it all over the field against Rufus Alexander and those guys. I don't know what the equivalent to that would be nowadays. Of course, like if OU is playing meaningful football in December, it's, you know, like they're in the playoff. And you're not doing that with Bo Bentley. You're not having him practice.
You're not having bowl practice where Sam blew up, you know. As you said, Sam took on the in bowl practice, they almost had like a mini spring, and Sam took on the first team defense, as you said, and was lighting them up. So
yeah, so hopefully like the leap that I think people assumed because Bo Bentley was a highly recruited quarterback that he would make like in spring and summer. Let's hope that he makes that during the regular season, just in the shadows.
Okay, all right, because it seemed like, you know, he did obviously have the spring game was bad, and Brent obviously threw everything at him, and he was playing the first team defense with the second team O line. You know, being an older OU fan, you know, I remember 03. I remember spring games in 02 and 03, right, when, you know, OU would OU have a good starting offensive line, but the second team O line versus, you know, the second team D line was a terrible mismatch, and you'd always be like, you know, the guy would be running for his life in the spring game. You'd be like, did we, you know, okay, so our first team offensive line's okay, second team O line's bad, but second team D line is just overwhelming them. So I think it was a little bit of that in spring with Bo. So it's interesting just because, as you said, I mean, obviously none of us have really seen enough of Whit Neubauer to really say, okay, if he's the second team QB all this year and he's the only guy we see, is he capable of being an SEC quarterback? I just don't think we know that.
No, but I mean, how many teams' second string quarterback is capable of being an SEC quarterback?
Well, you're right. I mean, quarterback depth has evaporated, right? Unless you're Lane Kiffin and you pull Chambliss out of wherever in Michigan he found him.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's an important commodity that Whit Neubauer is experienced, that he's older. I think that's nice. If you have to play your second string quarterback and he's not like the highest rated recruit in the entire country, like as a true freshman, which Bo Bentley is not, then I would rather it be someone who's been in college football for 3 or 4 years, and that's not very common with the transfer portal. So at least OU has that. But again, I think we're all just like knocking on wood that John's healthy for the whole year.
Need that.
So Brady, if I remember we talked to you last preseason, and you were, I wouldn't say pessimistic, but you were very guarded about the direction of the program, like a lot of us were. Are you 12 months with all the other data points we've had? Would you say you're a little more positive about the overall direction?
I'm definitely a lot more positive. At the same time, this is the year that we know what Brent Venables is, short-term, long-term, for his head coaching career at OU, his head coaching career in general. And also, like, he is 55 years old, so it's not like he's going to be, who knows how long he's going to be doing this at this level. But he's kind of a freak of nature. He's incredibly energetic for how old he is. But this year is huge because, I mean, the schedule's hard, but you go to OU to play in big games. And if you happen to have a schedule where, and, you know, the AP poll is supposed to come out on Monday, and I have it pre-written already. If the AP poll matches the coaches poll, I mean, take OU out of the equation, because I was frankly surprised that OU was a top 10 team in the coaches poll. Not that the coaches poll matters, but OU and the coaches poll has 4 top 10 opponents as of the preseason: Texas A&M, Ole Miss, Texas, and Georgia. If that holds true with the AP, this will be the first time in school history that they've had 4 top 10 opponents in a preseason poll. They've had 3 top 10 opponents in the preseason, I think, like 5 times. They've never had 4. And that doesn't really mean squat, because preseason rankings suck, but it does kind of paint a picture of just how difficult the schedule is. But at the same time, like, this is OU. And like a lot of people are saying in the comments, This roster is incredibly talented. You should be able to win games. And I know some people like to look at last year and kind of like hand wave it and say like, oh, the ball bounced OU's way a lot, especially in November. That doesn't carry over. And to that, I'd say, well, you didn't watch the games, did you? Because like OU forced the issue in a lot of those the ball bounced their way situations. They were the ones forcing the ball to bounce their way. The best example I can always think of is the Alabama game in Tuscaloosa, where people would just hand wave that win and say, oh, how often are you going to get an 80-yard pick six? And it's like, well, OU did. I mean, Kobe McKenzie did like the most unathletic thing on a football field I've ever seen on the exact play before it when Alabama fumbled it. And it was like the controller died and he just didn't know what to do and he kicked the ball out of bounds. And it was like, what the hell? OU was supposed to have the ball right there, right then. And then ball don't lie. I know you got it on the next play with the pick six. So OU forced the issue last year with a broken offense, with a green offensive line, with an offensive coordinator and a quarterback who, again, John Mateer hurt. But I think both of them, and they've kind of said this as much, that, hey, the SEC's hard. And it wasn't Western Kentucky. It wasn't Pullman, Washington against San Diego State and Boise State and all those teams. It wasn't that. And I think that year of experience means a hell of a lot. We've seen quarterbacks transfer into the SEC from out of the SEC, get their first starting job, and then suck. And then they just took off in year 2 and year 3 because there's something to be said about having experience against even the bad teams in this conference have NFL dudes on their roster. You can't say that about the Big Ten and Maryland and Purdue and that level of program in that conference. You can't say that about the Big 12. Like, South Carolina is like one of the more winnable games on OU's schedule. They've got 3 or 4 NFL draft picks on their defense. It's just a different game down here in the SEC
they've got
from a talent standpoint.
They've got 3 of what? Of Feldman's freaks, right? In their top 30, something like that, right? Harbor, Stewart, and Sellers, right? They're like, they got 3 freakish athletes.
And people are just now starting to talk about him, but Camario Taylor, or Taylor, however his name is, from Mississippi State, that quarterback, that's going to be a dude that he's going to give OU fans fits probably because he is extremely talented. We'll see if it works, but Jeff Levy's offense is pretty dumb, so it should be fairly simple for any quarterback to pick it up and run with it, and he's extremely talented. So even the winnable games have like head-scratching dudes on their teams for OU to kind of like try to pick and choose against. But going back, I mean, I've kind of rambled, that's my bad, but this is a huge year for Brent. I think the floor of success for this team in terms of like that's acceptable, because you're also talking about like maintaining the 2027 class, maintaining that elite level class. You got to at least go 9-3. If you go 9-3 and you lose like 1 or 2 games, because like if you lose them in the same manner as the Ole Miss game last year, where it was like, yeah, you made some mistakes, but those were 2 really good teams that played each other really well, and one team made a little bit less mistakes than the other. That happens. If you lose games like that, it's like, okay, like 9-3. You probably won a few games against some good opponents too, so that's acceptable. It's not great, but it's acceptable. You know, the schedule shouldn't be that hard every single year. Anything less than that, that's where like the questions kind of come back for like, well, so when is the offense going to get on track? Is it going to get on track? Can you coach like both sides of the ball? Can you build a program that is successful on both sides of the ball? But anything north of 9-3, if you go back to the playoff, that would tell me that, nope, OU's got their coach. And it feels weird going into year 5 that we still have these questions, but when you have 2 6-win seasons, seven loss seasons in 4 years, like you're going to have those questions, because as much success as he's had at OU, he's had a lot of failure, but at least Brent has shown an ability to adapt and to learn from his mistakes and try to correct them. Plus, he's being surrounded by a great staff, a great new front office that's helping him out, and he's willing to accept that help. And I think that that's an invaluable commodity, because we've seen coaches even at OU that are just arrogant as hell and don't want to have any outside help whatsoever, want to listen to anybody else. They just want to do it their way. So
until now.
Let's do it.
No, I'm saying because your boy, I'm gonna say your boy, Muleshoe, Tebow, Lincoln Riley, he got Gary Patterson now. So I think
He's-
now he's finally
he's my
woken
boy.
up. I think he's finally woken up. So I just
So,
wanted
like,
to say that quick.
Did Lincoln Riley and Steve Sarkisian just like get into a coma, wake up and think, "Hey, it's 2009. Let's go get Gary Patterson and Will Muschamp." It's like, like
You're Sark. You have the money to go get whatever defensive coordinator you want in the country and pay him whatever you want, and you decide Coach Boom, was basically just sitting on Kirby Smart's staff, not doing anything, when Kirby and his other guy was calling defense, and he was not good at his other two spots. And yes, to your point, I mean, the last time he was an effective DC was 09,
I mean,
something like that.
Were Florida's and South Carolina's defenses pretty good when he was the head coach, at least?
South Carolina's was crap. Florida,
Yeah,
I don't recall. They weren't. I don't think they were bad enough to get him fired.
To me, that was such a reactionary hire by Sark. Like
It's a bizarre hire.
They've really cared about the fact, because look, they've had no problem with OU,
Yeah.
so you credit them for that. But they've really cared that Georgia has like beaten the hell out of them physically, and then talked about it after the fact. You know, Kirby Smart and some of their players have said like, "Yeah, we play football here. We're not here for money or for the Lamborghinis. We're here to speed them, but we're not here for that. You know, we're here to like play football." And so it seemed like Sark just kind of read all that and just said, "You know what? I want to just have a more physical defensive coordinator who yells a lot. So let's go get that guy that used to be good 10 years ago because he yells a lot. That'll show Georgia, and maybe so, maybe so." Maybe it will work. And it should work because Texas's defense is so talented. They've got so many talented dudes. I mean, as talented as OU's defenses is, I mean, you can ask like a random assortment of OU fans. If you could have like 5 or 6 players from Texas start for your defense, would you say yes or no? I think a lot of them would be like, yes, because they're talented. So, I mean, I don't like. I don't know. I think it was just weird.
Yeah, I mean, other than Colin Simmons, though, who you really taking?
Well, I mean, did OU like kick the tires on Biles, or was that
No.
just like fans talking?
No. Sullivan was the number one guy from the hop.
I mean, you're talking about like, I mean,
Do I want Hero Cano over Jaden Jackson? I mean,
is Colton Vasek still there?
he is. I think.
Oh no.
I mean,
Oh, no.
the Justice Terry kid and Richard Lewis, they're elite talents, but they're freshmen and sophomores. They're not David Stone. They're not Taylor Wine. I mean, the Biles guy. Yeah, I hear a lot of hype about him, but are you trading him for Kip Lewis?
Oh, well, probably not.
I mean, or it's a push at the very least, and they don't have a backer. Is it Rich? I thought it was Richard Wesley. I thought it was Richard Lewis. Maybe whatever. He's a California guy. Benji, I wish you had him. So whichever. Lance Jackson. They keep talking about Lance Jackson like he's the next coming of something, or at least Benji, the Texas fan in our comments, does. Their secondary. Is there anybody from their secondary you take over OU starting secondary?
Last year, maybe, but no, probably not now.
Guys, we've been on here for an hour, so I gotta ask this question real quick. This is for Benji's sanity. Do you know who Michael Mascalinus is?
That's Masunas.
Oh, excuse me. Do you know who Mike Masunas is? Have you heard that name, Brady?
Never.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure. Just wanted to make sure we're not crazy, guys. We just want to make sure that Mike Mendoza, he got his fair share tonight. I'm not sure.
How many last names are you going to give this guy?
I don't know, dude. I can't keep up with his name. I know his first name is Mike, but it's just, Big G came on here talking about, hey, we got this, what is he, a tight end?
Yes.
Yes, we got
Yes.
this tight end, and his name is Michael Mascabalunas, and I was like, who's Michael? Who's this Mike? I was like, what's going on? Chris Mason didn't know who the hell he was, so I don't know.
Marquise Tuiasosopo.
Exactly. There you go, right?
TJ Hushmanzada.
Say who is this guy? You know.
Just like a random linebacker from Bill Snyder, Kansas State.
All right, Chris Mason, what's this for us?
These
Oh,
these are the career stats of Mike Masudis.
oh. Michael. Said Michael, where you at? Damn,
Doesn't
BG.
All
touch,
right.
doesn't touch Boba Moses.
That's right, because there's only there is. We can't say that though. There's not only one Bubba Moses, because his kid's called Bubba Moses, and OU might sign him in 2029.
Why'd they do that? Why did he do that? There was a very well documented video saying you were the only one, and you ruined it, Bubba. Why did you do that?
All right, Brady, have you gone so far on Sooners Illustrated or through the Keyhole to make a season record prediction? Have you gone that far yet, or are you waiting to do that? Okay.
Yeah, I did say 10-2. Last year, no, for context, last year I said 9-3. And that was, I mean, at least on Keyhole, there's 4 of us. And that was me I was the weird one. I was the one who was like, oh, you're like really drinking the Kool-Aid, I guess, for this team this season. Because they were like, I think one guy said 8-4, the rest were like 7-5. And I just thought, well, this is OU. They should absolutely, it seems like some corrections were made. Offensive coordinator, quarterback. You feel better about things. We know the defense is getting like close to elite. They ultimately did show that they were an elite unit. And to me, I'm like, I don't care what the schedule looks like. This is Oklahoma. Go win games. And to their credit, they did that. They exceeded my expectation. They went 10-2 and went to the college football playoff. And I know, hey, it's not a moral victory at all, because it's not a moral victory at all. Like you don't lose games. You don't lose games at home, especially with a 17-point lead. But even with how the game went, that was a well-played football game. It was between 2 really good teams that did not want to lose, and one team made a few more plays than the other one. The other one made some pretty damning mistakes, like your punter just saying, I don't want the football anymore, I'm going to put it on the ground. But that's a good place to be in. If you're going to lose, you lose games like that, and they make you better. That's the kind of the whole point of competition is you don't want to get blown out. You don't want to get embarrassed. That doesn't teach you shit. So you continuously try to build. So to me, it's just the schedule's hard, but hey, there are some non-negotiables here. You got to beat Michigan. You're a better team than them right now. I don't Kyle Whittingham's a very good coach, but second game of his tenure there, that's not a good spot for them. That's a good spot for OU, even though it's on the road. Georgia, that one's going to be tough. that one's just it's going to be tough.
So you said 10-2. Did you identify the 2 losses? Did you have the 2 losses in your mind, or are you just saying generically 10-2?
I did. And now I'm just going to get burned because I knew that I was going to predict them to beat Texas. And the reason why I say that is because if they don't, I mean, I'm going to assume they'll lose to Georgia. If they lose to Georgia and then they lose to Texas with the context of how Brent's teams have performed in that game, that is going to be so hard. I think it's just Chuck Fairbanks and Gary Gibbs in terms of coaches in their first 5 years that have had a worse record or a similar record against Texas. And there's context with those 2 coaches, and that doesn't guarantee anything, but it just goes to show you there is a path for success for head coaches at in this program, and losing to Texas that much is not a way for you to be successful. There's not that many examples of such. So if that be the case, then yeah, that'd be kind of an ugly scene. But my 10-2 thing was they'll lose to Georgia, and then they'll drop one to Texas A&M. I don't think they'll go undefeated at home. It's a pretty tough home schedule. Because you're even talking about, like, what if Kentucky is just randomly good? Like, what if they're just like, I don't expect that to be the case, but who knows? You know, like, what if Summerall at Florida is randomly good and OU goes into the swamp and they have, like, 2 losses? Like, that's not very ideal for road games, especially your first road game in the swamp as a program. So, but with what they've got coming back, with the experience, the chip on their shoulder, the the experiences that they gained last year, the friends they made along the way, all that corny crap. I think 10-2 is that's how I'm judging them. If they go anything less, then that's where I'll have some criticisms. If they meet 10-2 or they exceed it, that's where I'll throw some flowers at their feet.
So from my view, and Chris and I haven't talked about this, is that they've got to beat Georgia or Texas to only have one loss on the back half of the schedule. If they can't beat either of those teams, they're dropping. They're dropping at least another game.
I hate to say this, but what if they beat Georgia and then lose to Texas again? And let's just say that they score a touchdown, but let's say that they just lose. I don't care if it's by 10 or by 1 or by 20.
Lose a close great game, right? Something where you're like, yeah, I don't know. I'll be at the Georgia game, so we'll see how that goes. But I just think they've got to beat Texas or Georgia to be able to handle the back end of this schedule with only a blip here or there. Everyone keeps saying A&M, and I'm like, I'm having a hard time misremembering A&M being roadkill in Norman the entire 2000s. I mean, they're not a great road team in general, and in Norman,
and Marcel Reed is.
He's got 3 pick sixes in Norman written all over him.
Yeah, if you think John Mateer has turnover problems, just like, okay, you clearly didn't watch Marcel Reed in the games that actually mattered last year for A&M because they only played in 3 of them.
And they almost gave away. I mean, they tried to lose the South Carolina game. I mean, really tried to lose, and only South Carolina, giving it back to them. I mean, I just think they've got to beat Georgia or Texas. You're right about Michigan. I don't know how they lose to Michigan and rebound and beat Georgia and Texas in some weird way. So, I'm with you there.
The good thing about having a difficult schedule, though, is let's say you do drop Georgia, and God forbid, let's say they drop 2 and they drop Georgia and Texas. Well, you got a difficult schedule. It means you can right a lot of wrongs like later in October and November. So, OU fans will not let you forget that you lost to Texas again. But if you go Ole Miss, you go beat Texas A&M, you go undefeated against Kentucky, South Carolina, Florida, and set yourself up for basically get into the playoff game against Missouri on the road, then all that kind of gets forgotten a little bit.
Yeah. All right, guys, we've been on here for about an hour. People, we try to keep it short, but we had a special guest tonight with Brady Tranthem, Sports Illustrated, Sooners Illustrated, through the Keyhole podcast. Definitely go check out all of those things that he has going over there. A lot of great content. Please keep up with him daily as well, just like you do with Chris Mason, with all the content he's bumping out recruiting-wise with Sooners 360. It's me. Horns Down Podcast. Please like and subscribe. Like this video and subscribe to both channels if you would. With that being said, any other things that we need to talk about, guys?
I don't think so.
I think that's it.
Andy Bass is your running back 4.
All right. All right.
RB4.
Until next time. See you.